Welcome back to another episode of The Sit Down. Today we have a very special guest, Thijs Feryn. Welcome, Thijs. Actually, thanks for having me in your garden.
Yes, hi Bert. I'm really happy to have you here. This is apparently the first outdoor recording you've done.
It is.
So there's so many factors coming into this. Yes, we're in my backyard, but you probably hear some noise, but Bert thought it's authentic, so let's roll with it.
It's nature, so let's roll with it. My first question for you is, how did you ever get into IT and a bit of coding and eventually in evangelism?
Well, it all started in the 90s. I'm not sure if everyone watching this is Belgium, but we are here in rural West Vlaanderen, which is a very, very rural area. And in the 90s, there was this huge IT company called Lernhout and Hoosby, which ended up in fiasco, of course. But in Yper, which is like 20 minutes that way, they had a big campus and they had a computerwinkeltje.
Okay.
Which is, back in the 90s, was a well-known computer bookstore. And I bought myself a JavaScript book and I thought, I'm going to learn how to program. Awesome. Now, of course, it didn't really end up that way, but it triggered something. And then, of course, I did a bachelor's degree in applied computer sciences, learned some ASP, learned some Java, learned some C++. But the big trigger was when I did my internship. You have to do that at the end of your bachelor, right? I went on an Erasmus trip to Finland and I learned PHP there, which, fast forward, gave me lots of opportunities. And while I was there at the tail end of that 3-month internship, I was thinking about the future, what the future would bring. Now, I've done some website design for local entrepreneurs, and I knew that there was this hosting company in Ghent called Combell, which was still small potatoes back then.
Yeah.
Now they're gigantic. And I knew a guy from my town who worked there during the weekends helping to build the website at that time. And I applied for a job remotely from Finland and told them, look, if you care about seeing me, you have to wait for 2 weeks until I get back. And I got back and I started the job and I did 6 years of tech support.
Tech support, so being at the phone, helping people
Phones and emails. Loved it. Did it for 6.5 years and I learned a lot there. On the side, I used my developer skills to not only assist clientele with failing websites, but also to do a little bit of coding within the company. And then the real trigger, like the big one, was my first PHP conference in Frankfurt called the International PHP Conference, which ironically was primarily German. But that was the aha moment. And then things got accelerated tremendously.
Yeah, but at that point you were tech support and just helping people out. But eventually you became, as I knew you, as an evangelist at Combell. How did that ever happen?
Well, it happened because of those community engagement events at PHP scene. I had the speaker ambitions. The first thing I noticed when I was there in 2007 in Frankfurt is, I can do this. I want to do this. And then Combell was gracious enough, and I can't thank him enough because I've worked there for almost 15 years, and while I have been out for almost 5, I still have tremendous love for them. And they said, you know what, go ahead, go to these community events, learn about what's going on, and start doing that. And at a given point in time, I'm all about finding solutions and communicating those solutions, but it's very one-to-one. Pick up the phone, you do an email, it's very one-to-one, and you have to repeat the same thing every single time. And I thought, what if I could broadcast that message and find an audience where multiple people at the same time could listen to what I had to say? And I was fully supported by Combell. They also noticed that I was growing a bit out of the tech support and doing more networking at FEWeb events, right?
I've seen you there also.
Yeah, and then it started, and I did it for 9 years at Combell before joining Varnish Software. So it was a funny set of circumstances. Also consultants they worked with, like brand consultants, strategy consultants, said it would help to have someone out there, evangelism, DevRel, or conversation manager.
It's all the same thing basically, but
there were some nuances, but they wanted someone out there who wasn't purely a marketeer, who could do some personal branding, could be the face of the company, and that turned out to be me.
All right. And you do the same thing now for Varnish Software?
Yes, Varnish Software hired me specifically to do that job.
To do that job, yeah. And well, Varnish Software is based in...
Everywhere.
Everywhere, but...
Headquarters, Stockholm.
Stockholm, all right.
Yeah.
So you travel a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of time on airplanes, and you
which is not the hip thing anymore. Apparently, you get a lot of backlash for saying that. That used to be like the fake jet set lifestyle, as we call it, right? Someone else paying my trips. Yeah. But now it's a very sensitive topic. You can't go out on Twitter anymore and say, "Hey, look, I'm on this airplane." And it's like, can't you do this from home? Can't you do it remotely or virtually?
Well, I think we have COVID to thank for that.
Yeah.
A bit, yeah. But you have a vlog as well, where you post travel videos.
Well, I have a vlog, I have a bunch of vlogs, which some of them been neglecting because Varnish Software wants me to do that kind of stuff on their channels.
Okay.
So while I still have a backlog of we could talk about that later, maybe of the world tour. I did a world tour last year. I'm sitting on tons of footage, but I still need time to edit that. But at the same time, Varnish Software wants to do that as well. Travel vlogs, informational videos, tutorials.
Yeah, and that editing thing takes a lot of time.
Yes, and Bert knows this, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to have to get edited as well. Yeah. There's 3 camera angles, so you have your work cut out for you.
Well, I kind of like doing it, and so that's why I'm doing it as well. But throughout your career, you have traveled a lot, and you've spoken at many events, many countries.
Yes.
If you have to pick one.
I'm going to pick an atypical one. I'm not going to pick the country that left the biggest impression on me, but the event that left the biggest impression on me, surprisingly. So I keep track of every single presentation I've done, the small ones, the big ones, the meetups, the big conferences. And I think at the end of summer, I will have reached my 300 presentation. So I have some volume. And every now and then on LinkedIn, I call them Eastern European conferences, which is actually insulting to them because they're Central European, right? Central European conferences reach out on LinkedIn and said, "Thijs, you want to speak at our event? We'll pay your travel, we'll get you in, we'll treat you right." And I'm always like, yeah, whatever. And I've been into some very random places in Poland, and Bulgaria and Romania. And I ended up in Poland, in Gdansk.
Okay, yeah.
Called Danzig, prior to World War II, I guess, called Gdansk. And I thought, small event, maybe a couple of hundred people will be fine. It turned out to be the biggest event in Central Europe with 3,000 people, 1,000 in my room.
3,000 and 1,000 in your room.
The production was ridiculous. So they had a huge stage, lighting, sort of a staging area where you had to sit. They picked you up with climate-controlled vans. You didn't have to do anything. They dropped you off at the hotel. There was a guy with a sign at the airport. There was this agenda on the table of my hotel room. You have to be there. There was a professional photographer. Everything was recorded. You could still see that. The event's called InfoShare.
Okay.
It's a long time ago, but it left such a big mark on me. It's like, holy cow, where the hell am I? They even rented fake pirate boats and simulated a pirate battle on the coast of Gdansk. Awesome. Bringing us to a place called Sopot, which is like the Monaco of Poland, where all the famous football players have their condos. So this is the thing, right? And it's a mindset thing for me as well. It's so dangerous to underestimate.
Okay.
And every time I do underestimate someone or something, I'm so glad to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
And that was one of those events. Now, if you ask me what left a big mark on me recently, I just traveled to Singapore this year. I went to Vegas this year. So many cool events.
I saw it on your Instagram story, I think last week in Singapore.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Beautiful place. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful place. And also the Asian business hub for now. Yeah. Took over from Hong Kong. Now we're going into political territory.
Yeah, well, I don't mind.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
All right. And whenever you're not doing that, you're not giving presentations, you're not editing videos, you're not thinking about Varnish or software or anything, what does Thijs do in his spare time?
Well, I have a family, I have 2 kids, I have a wife. We like to travel as well, surprisingly. I'm also a bit of a football fan. I'm a Club Brugge fan.
Okay.
Some people will like that, some people won't, but that's the tribalism. That's the tribalism of football. And we go to see the games. Now, we don't just go to see the games. We also vlog, or I also vlog, which is one of those roller coaster events in my life that took me to places I've never expected. So one of those situations where you take a GoPro to a game, and before you know it, you've built out this channel and this following. And
and you also have the podcast of Club Rouge.
Yeah, but there's better podcasts out there. And we did 3 episodes, which were good. I'm happy with the result. But there's now an established podcast within the... It's also a community. Just like IT communities, there is a community in that football world as well, with people and names and figureheads. And they're doing well. And I don't want to steal their thunder. They're well established. So football for amusement, but also that social media, YouTube, vlogging angle there, which meant a lot to me. It resulted in things I couldn't anticipate. Like, one example is whenever I go to the stadium, people randomly chat with me, and it's a great conversation starter.
Because they know your face from all the content that you created.
We've created this one video. So my videos nowadays aren't that successful anymore because I don't put that much effort anymore. But I remember this one video that accumulated over all the different social media, more than 300,000 views.
That's quite a lot,
And people still talk about that one video.
Yeah.
So that was like top of the food chain moment for me. But of course, if you don't put the effort in, you just go down.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to my next question, of course. What is the thing that you're most proud of in anything that you did, even being evangelism or as a podcaster or as a videographer?
I think just the fact of being paid to present is the thing I'm most grateful for. Because everyone talks, everyone has something to say.
Yeah.
And someone is willing to pay me to talk at events, that's special for me. The fact that I can do this, that I don't have this typical 9-to-5 job, sitting at a desk, doing random stuff that drags you down and burns you out. I don't have that. Every day is an adventure.
Kind of amazing.
And the fact that I grew into that, and that people along the way helped me and saw the capabilities I had, how rough they were in the beginning, led to me now being able to go wherever I want to go, talk about the topics and be paid for it. So I think that's the one.
All right, cool. And what is on your schedule for the coming months?
Well, we're at the tail end of spring event season, so summer's coming up, so things are winding down. I've had a lot of travel in winter and spring. Now I have 2 more events coming up before we wrap it up for the summer. And next week I'm speaking at a Laravel event on the beach in Zandvoort, the Netherlands. They do their annual, the Dutch Laravel Foundation does their annual Larafest, and I've been invited as the guest speaker, which also ties into an earlier speaking opportunity last year. It was the first post-COVID, air quotes, right? First post-COVID conference I did in Amsterdam, which was Laracon.
Yeah.
And the guys there from the Dutch Laravel Foundation saw me and thought, oh, he's an entertaining guy, so I'm gonna be there to entertain. There will be some knowledge transfer, of course, but it's primarily just keep it light, keep it fun. And then after that, the week after that, I'm doing a 3-day speaking tour at meetups in Switzerland. So it was always, I fly a lot, and a lot of the travel I do transfers via Zurich Airport. So I've been there a bunch of times. I was there last week, flying from Singapore, but I've never been in the country. And you see so many beautiful things. A lot of background noise, I guess, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the west of Belgium, so tractors are a thing.
Or a thing here.
I've never been in the country of Switzerland, and you see these beautiful imagery of nature in Switzerland and the cities, and I'm like, I want to do that. And I was in Montreal earlier this year, in February, with someone called David Buchmann from the PHP community, who's also a Varnish enthusiast, and he said, like, I live in Switzerland, why don't we set this up? And he talked to local meetup organizers in Zurich, Bern, and St. Gallen. And he set that up. And so not next week, but the week after, I'm flying to Zurich on Monday and use that as a base of operations and use the train to go to Bern, to St. Gallen, do a 3-day meetup speaking tour. Which is the focus this year for me. Smaller meetups, meeting with people in their community.
All right, and talking about a speaker tour, last year you did, you traveled around the world.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
You took the plane and flew all the way around, and I think you did how many gigs?
I can't really, there weren't that many. So with Varnish Software, we organized a world tour, meaning you start at one place and then you cross the globe and come back. Now you can actually buy these tickets. These aren't separate tickets. There is a round the world ticket with the Star Alliance that I booked through a travel agent where you have to go either clockwise or counterclockwise.
Yeah.
So we started out in Dubai at a GitEx trade show. Like we always focus on the big broadcast, telco, like trade shows where a lot of people need acceleration and content delivery.
Speed,
So so we started there. Then I traveled to Singapore. From Singapore, I traveled to the west coast of the US to do the next presentation in Santa Clara at Intel's headquarters. From there, I went to Denver and then to New York to wrap it up. Now, if you organize events, you know you can't do an event every day of the week. Typical event days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So all the rest of the time, you have time on your hands to do sightseeing, to go, if we have a local office there, to go to the office. So that was pretty wild. I spent 27 days non-stop in the sky. I'm not sure, but I think I did 15 or more flights. I do know I had to spend 3 nights on a plane.
Well, you started out with the videos about it. And
that's the backlog.
That's the
I have a backlog. I started out with the Dubai video and then traveling to Singapore, which was Singapore last year, not Singapore this year. So I still sit on all that footage. And it's wonderful footage. I just need to be motivated to get it done.
And also have the time, of course.
Well, maybe summer's coming, travel's winding down. Maybe I could just focus on that in my spare time.
So we will be seeing more from you.
Yeah. It was a wonderful concept, living out a suitcase for a month, taking flights, going to nice hotels, doing speaking engagement, and all the entertainment surrounding that in weekends and what have you.
Yeah, and the family must approve as well, because otherwise this
that was a bit tougher for them. They knew it was a big deal, and like being able to say that you've done a world tour is quite, it's one of those bucket list items, I think. I don't have a lot of those things I want to check, but that seemed, when it was presented to me by my boss, I was like, yeah, let's do it. But my family was very supportive, and I'm super grateful that they withstood that
you
stress
should as well.
But my wife's a trooper in that respect. She's a champ, so she managed to hold it down.
She'll love to hear that.
Yes. Lisa, you did really well, and you continue to support me when I'm away from home. I spent 2 weeks in the United States. I spent 10 days in Singapore. I spent a week in Montreal. These are 3.5, 4 weeks that I'm not home. And I'm grateful that someone
not many people would appreciate that. But
no. But it's part of the job. We signed up for that in the beginning, and it's a good balance we try to maintain.
Yeah.
And what the next bucket list item would be for me, or a thing that an ambition I have, is to be able to bring the family more on the road.
Okay.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
But I haven't reached that point yet where I could do it every single time.
Well, the kids have to be at a certain age as well.
But
have them fully enjoy it.
We took them to New York this year during Easter holiday. While the second week I had to do a trade show in Vegas. First week we went to New York. It was one of the most wonderful trips we did. But that only works during vacations and if I saved up enough air miles to afford it.
Yeah, it's kind of expensive as well.
Yes. So that's the next thing on my list that I want to do someday.
Yeah. A question that I ask everyone in this show is there anyone on your mind that you would love to see on this mini show that we have here?
Are there any limitations in terms of geography?
No, but please don't send me to New York.
Okay. You want to do it physically?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I go physically, or either they come to our office, or in this case, I travel to them.
The problem is I don't work with a lot of Belgians anymore.
Well, I know.
So I'm a bit out of the loop.
Question.
And I think the typical ones will have come to you. You know who I like? Who could be a good entertainer and is very opinionated about web? Jochem van den Driessen?
Yeah.
Johink?
I know him, yeah.
He would be a good guest. He has some flair.
He has
an opinion. He's an expert in web.
Also an expert indeed.
So I would say him, because Bramus you probably already had.
He was the previous one.
See,
I will text him. So
I think Johink would be.
I'm coming for you.
Would be a really good one.
All right, cool. Is there anything you want to add to the conversation for the audience?
That's a very open question.
Yeah, it is.
So it's like you want to inject the flavor of the day.
Yeah, is there anything you want to share that we didn't mention, or?
There's so many things to share. Like I could fill hours talking about all that kind of stuff. Well, the only message I have for the people who want to have an ambition or want to go for it is don't listen to anyone who says you can't, and force your own luck. And the way you should do that. And that's a very simplistic way of saying to me, and I apologize if you feel offended by that, is that positive mental attitude and expressing and displaying your passion. Everyone's passionate about something. If you show it to people, if you show that passion emotionally, but also in your work, people will give you opportunities.
That's
So
kind of...
I think the story of my career is being positive, being passionate, and showing that.
Yeah, that's also kind of my motivation to do this kind of stuff and the tutorials I create. So
grow it very carefully, step by step.
Yeah.
It'll take a long time,
yes,
but don't stray from the path and force your own luck.
All right. Where can people follow you?
I am at Thijs Feryn, ThijsFeryn, on the various social media. So I think you'll be able to follow me there. While I'm the same person everywhere, I do alter my message a bit. If you follow me on LinkedIn, it'll be professional context. If you follow me on Instagram, it'll be the travel stuff.
guy.
If you follow me on Twitter, it'll be primarily like IT related stuff.
All right. Cool. I will also link your socials in the comments down below. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Bert.
For having me in your garden, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.